That doesn't matter at all. Only a drop or two fell out onto the carpet, and they don't show, as you see, sir, for it's a dark corner. Shall I take the bottle away? I may as well." Mr. Sleuth hesitated. "No," he said after a long pause. "I think not, Mrs. Bunting. For the very little I require it, the ink remaining in the bottle will do quite well, especially if I add a little water, or better still, a little tea, to what already remains in the bottle. I only require it to mark up passages which happen to be of peculiar interest in my concordance. A work, Mrs. Bunting, which I should have taken great pleasure in compiling myself had not this gentleman called Cruden been before." Not only Bunting, but Daisy also, thought Ellen far pleasanter in her manner than usual that evening. She listened to all they had to say about their interesting visit to the Black Museum, and did not snub either of them. No, not even when Bunting told of the dreadful, haunting, silly-looking death masks taken from the hanged. But a few minutes after that, when her husband suddenly asked her a question, Mrs. Bunting answered at random. It was clear she had not heard the last few words he had been saying. "A penny for your thoughts," he said jocularly. But she shook her head. Daisy slipped out of the room, and 5 minutes later came back dressed up in a blue and white check silk gown. "My!" said her father. "You do look fine, Daisy. I've never seen you wearing that before." "And a rare figure of fun she looks in it," observed Mrs. Bunting sarcastically. And then, "I suppose this dressing up means that you're expecting someone. I should have thought both of you must have seen enough of young Chandler for one day. I wonder when that young chap does his work, that I do. He never seems too busy to come and waste an hour or two here." But that was the only nasty thing Ellen said all that evening, and even Daisy noticed that her stepmother seemed dazed and unlike herself. She went about her cooking and the various little things she had to do even more silently than was her wont. Yet under that still, almost sullen manner, how fierce was the storm of dread, of sombre anguish, and, yes, of sick suspense which shook her soul, and which so far affected her poor, ailing body that often she felt as if she could not force herself to accomplish her simple round of daily work. After they had finished supper Bunting went out and bought a penny evening paper, but as he came in he announced, with a rather rueful smile, that he had read so much of that nasty little print this last week or two that his eyes hurt him. "Let me read aloud a bit to you, father," said Daisy eagerly, and he handed her the paper. Scarcely had Daisy opened her lips when a loud ring and a knock echoed through the house. Chapter 10. By Leanne Howlett.